Howdy folks, it's Matthew, your friendly neighborhood technician. I had a request video from one of my other videos, my Nissan 3.0 liter tensioner pulley stripped out bolt video basically. And one of my YouTubers had requested that maybe I can kind of show them how I get a stripped out bolt off of a pulley. So I'm going to kind of use some examples here. Yes, this is a cutting wheel, but let's just pretend that this is a pulley with a bolt in it, okay? So if you have a pulley that has a bolt in it and you have a bolt head there and the bolt head gets stripped off so you can't turn it, you can use, I've got a couple sets of these, you can use a few different sets of bolt extractors. And what these will do is they'll get on your bolt for you there and they'll bite into it. You can kind of see how they're shaped. And the right size will bite into it, so if your bolt is stripped out and your socket won't get on there, then the right size will bite into that bolt head for you, and you can go ahead and use that like a socket to get that out. Now, another method though is sometimes you've got a pulley that's maybe right up against the fender well, and you can't get in there with one of these sockets. That's where you have to become creative. Sometimes, if I'm dealing with a bolt or even a nut, I'll use the air hammer. Okay? And what I'll do is I'll take the air hammer and I'll get right up in there, right up on one of those edges, and I will knock the bolt loose. If the air hammer doesn't work, or if you don't have an air hammer, another method you can use would be a Dremel with a tungsten bit. Now let me see if I can get in the light, because somebody has specifically asked what the tungsten carbide bit looks like. So it's just a long bit, tungsten carbide. You can pick it up at Home Depot or Lowe's. You can even pick them up at Walmart, okay? Tungsten is what you want because it's really hard and it's going to cut. All right, and you get that up in between your fender, and what I do if I have a bolt is I cut a deep notch. All right, I'll just cut one notch on the side there so that I can get in there with a screwdriver or a chisel, and then I'll get that screwdriver inside of the notch and I'll knock it loose. All right, and so that's if you have a bolt. If you have just a bolt, you can use a bolt extractor set. You can cut a notch in it with your Dremel and then take a screwdriver and stick it in there and knock it out. Let's turn around and look at the other side now. Now remember, even though this is a cutting wheel, we are pretending that this is a pulley. Let's say you have a nut that's holding your pulley on. Again, you can do the same thing. You can take your tungsten bit and you can get inside of there and you can cut a notch in it, and then you can take your screwdriver or your chisel, put it inside of that notch, and then knock it loose, and then just keep turning and knocking it loose. The other thing you can do sometimes that'll get a stripped out nut or bolt, especially a nut, is if you're careful enough, you can go ahead and cut it on one side and then cut it on another side, and a lot of times that'll loosen it up because it'll expand basically, and that'll get that off. So a few methods if you have a bolt stuck on a pulley is to use a nut or bolt extractor. They look something like this. If you don't have the room to get in there, then you can get creative and you can get a tungsten carbide bit with a Dremel, and you can cut a notch in the top of it and the side so that you can get your screwdriver or a chisel and then smack it loose. All right? And just to kind of give you, I think I have some small ones that I've worked with here. Let's see. Or so I thought I did. Yep, here's one. So here's one. Here's a stripped out Mercedes bolt that I had to cut a notch in. All right, you see that notch that I cut? And so to get that bolt out, all I did was I cut a notch and then I stuck my screwdriver in there and I turned and twisted it and got it out. Okay, so again, cut you a notch on the side of it use your screwdriver to get in there and knock it and turn it if you can't get a socket on there. Same thing if you have a nut. Just cut you a notch using a tungsten bit and a Dremel. I actually picked this up at the pawn shop for like 20 bucks years ago. So there you go, folks. There's a few ideas as to stripped out nut and bolt extraction. Give me a holler if you have any questions. I'm constantly dealing with stripped out nuts and bolts, and I've got all kinds of different methods to extracting them. Everybody, this is Matthew, your friendly neighborhood technician. Thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting me. Signing off.